Welcome back. Just kidding. I don't want to start like that. But welcome back. It's time for episode 4 of the Ripple Effect podcast. And yes, if you remember me saying in my last episode that I was for sure going to post one every week, here we are 2 weeks later. So just bear with me. But in my defense, I did record this episode last week, but I'm just now getting around to doing the edits and getting it posted. But I'm extremely excited because today is going to be my first ever episode where I interview a guest, and it was awesome. And there's a reason why I picked the person that you're going to hear from today. Her name is Laura Quick, and she is the founder and CEO of GoodGrit magazine. I highly encourage you go look them up online on Instagram. They are a magazine that is telling the progressive and interesting and non-stereotypical stories of the South, and they do it in such an amazing and beautiful way. And so definitely go check them out. But Laura has been an entrepreneur for a very, very long time, and when I first met her, the idea for her magazine was just a concept literally in a 3-ring binder, and she had this consulting agency, and I was just getting started on my business journey, and we got connected through a mutual friend, and she became my first ever business mentor. And she's been with me through it all, the highs and the lows. And she was the first person that, not the first person that believed in me, because thankfully I've been surrounded by a lot of amazing people who have believed in me. But Laura was the first person that not only believed in me, but had the tools and the experience to help me transition my dreams and ideas into a reality. And so today we're going to talk a lot about mentorship, mentorship as a college student, mentorship as a young professional and a more seasoned professional, just all the variations and why it's so important. We're going to talk about journaling and being intentional with your time, and a little bit about why it's really important to have white space in your life and make room in your schedule to just let your mind kind of wander and dream and do all those things. So I am excited about this episode. Just forgive me for not doing an actual intro with her, so I'm going to get better at this. But when this episode starts, you're truly just going to drop in on the conversation. There is no buffer through the beginning, so don't be confused. But anyways, I hope you enjoy this. And without further ado, when I talk about you, I talk about mentorship, and obviously you were my first mentor. Really, I say business mentor, and how I explain you as I was like, she started out as a consultant, and then she kind of transitioned into business mentor, and then she was like my sister, and then I was like, so it was like this weird evolution. But I think the people that I deal with, our clients or our users or whatever, they think mentorship is like this really sterile, like boring word that maybe they have to find a mentor to like get through a class or something in their job or whatever. And I hate that. And so that's a big thing that we're trying to do with Ripple is like, hey, mentorship is, that's the thing that could take you to the next level. Anyways, so that's kind of why I'm super pumped that you're going to be the first one, so they know you're real.
I kind of vividly just remember the very first day you, in the most Lauren fashion, kind of just like shoved your way into my office with all of these like notebooks and like a bag that was overflowing. And you're like, here it is. We're going to change the world and give beds to kids and sew pillows and eat pizza. And in my mind, that's how you sounded. But quickly I realized, like, first off, you don't have any money, and so you can't pay for anything. I was like, okay, well, this is not a client. This is either a train wreck, a new family member, or like my mentee, whatever that is going to look like. Yeah. No, I actually completely resonate. And I think like even in my business, so much of what we do lends itself to internships. We have had, I think I calculated the other day, I've had over 120 interns come through the GoodGrit since we started, because so much of our business is really leveraged on getting young, incredible talent and we never ask them to take out the trash or file anything or whatever. Like, it's all about really building their portfolio when they're with us, and hands-on learning. And for me, mentorship is like a couple of different things. Like, I'm 37. I'm a mom of two. I'm married. I've got two dogs that are also kind of like children, and I still have a mentor.
Right.
Um,
Which
it's
I
kind
feel
of
like
a,
is uncommon for like people think once you graduate or whatever, like mentorship is over.
oh gosh. Well, and I think, for some people it is. um, and that's not, I consider myself a lifelong learner. And I think, I always want to get better. And I know that the world is moving at a speed that on my own,
Mhm.
within my capacity, I'm not going to be able to keep up with it unless I'm intentionally reaching out to people that know things that I don't know. Um, and there's a lot of common misconceptions around a mentor mentee relationship. Like, oh, I want to find someone I want to be just like and get them to mentor me. I think that's one that I've heard a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm actually of the school of thought of finding somebody who's not like you and get them to mentor you. um, because just like right before you press record, you were saying like you never know someone's a creeper. That's a real life thing that Lauren knows about me, that I just like love everyone and think they're awesome until I realize they're
Yeah.
not. And so, because we have blind spots, it's important to surround ourselves with people that are different than us. And I think mentorship, that's a big part of it.
Yeah. No, I love that. And that kind of goes into a little bit about something that you told me a long time ago. And it's like, we all have a lot of pride, whether we want to say it or not, like you, and with business and entrepreneurship or whatever it is that you're trying to be better in. Like, I went into every meeting, even my first meeting with you, with the school of thought of like, I have to have it together. Like, I need to act like I know what I'm talking about. Like, I need to look like you belong. Although I had like a sparkly pink iPad case and 30,000 notebooks, so it whatever. But in that doesn't matter. But one thing that I remember that you told me a long time ago is like, you should be the dumbest person in the room. Like, if you're the smartest person in too many rooms, like, there is a problem. And just that misconception of thinking like that you have to have it all together, or maybe you don't need to be mentored, or you don't have anything else to learn. I don't know. I just, that's one of the things that I remember.
I think, my husband just walked in, so I'll hear him in the background. um, I agree, and I think, I remember telling you that because I remember I think you were hitting some ceilings, and the idea of hitting ceilings is always just a really good sign that you're hanging out with people that are just like you, or people that you are the smartest person in the room. And so, I always encourage, um, there are times to show up like you have it all together, right? For instance, if you're trying to get backstage at a concert, you just need to walk fast and brisk and look like you belong. If you,
True.
and maybe, just maybe, you will get back there and they won't realize that you don't have that
Me
lanyard,
taking notes. I'm like, okay.
But I think there are other times in life where it's important to be vulnerable about what you don't know and be honest about what you want to learn. I think when it comes to, for me, there's like, again, talking about mentorships, in some people's mind, they don't get a mentor because they think there's this formal conversation
Yeah.
interview process that needs to happen. Like, okay, I'm going to take that person to coffee. I'm going to ask them if they can meet with me once a month. And like, I don't have time for that now, but I have one coffee slot per week, every week, that I keep open for anyone who wants to have coffee with me. Anyone. And they can ask me anything. 45 minutes, we'll have coffee, we'll hang out, and I'll try to help you best I can, right?
Right.
And I think that's the other thing. Like, treat every person that's a little bit further down the road than you as though they can teach you something, and that is also a form of mentorship.
Yeah, I love that. And you are super unique because no matter what or how busy you've been, you've always kept like, you always say like a seat at your table and community and all this stuff is so important to you. And so I think it's nice to hear from somebody at your level, like if you can make time for it, other people can make time for it too. Or if you can come at it with that approach, I don't know. I just think everybody uses excuses like either they're too busy to be mentored or too busy to offer something that they have to somebody else. And obviously that's just not true. It's what you make time for is what's going to happen.
Oh man, I'm gonna tell you something. If you're in college right now, or you have just started your career and you don't have white space on your calendar, you need to press pause on your life and get that straightened out. Because if you don't learn how to do it sooner rather than later, you're gonna wake up one day and wonder where your life went. I know that when I was young, actually, when I met my husband, he was not my husband. He was just this guy that I met on the interstate. If you want to know that story, you can look at my Instagram.
I
Um,
will link that. That story's hilarious. I love it.
but when I first met him, I felt so called out because he said something to me I'll never forget. He said, "If you're at everything, you're at nothing."
Mm,
Um, and I
okay.
think that when you're first starting your career, or even when you're at college, there's this pressure to be like, let's say you're if you're in college, then the pressure is like, man, I got to get my school stuff done, but also I have to have margin for my friends because I want to make sure I go to the party and I'm at the game and I'm whatever, you fill in the blank. Um, and when you start your career, you are going to every networking event. You are trying to like be everywhere so you can be seen, so you can see people and meet people. And the issue is that actually the white space in your life is the space where learning happens. So if you become too much of a consumer of things, of people, of content, but you don't give yourself the opportunity to really take some time and process those things you consumed, um, then it's like it didn't happen. If you're everywhere, you're nowhere. If everybody sees you at every event, it's kind of like you're not that special anymore.
Yeah.
So it's okay to
So
be
true.
selective.
That's so true.
Um, yeah, I hated when he said that. I was like, you don't know my life and you need to back up off me, first off.
Listen, I have fun where I am. No, but that's so true. And I don't know if that's just something like because I'm so old now, I'm 30 now. And I
So
was
old.
23 when we met. And so it's hilarious just to think of like some of the things that I thought I knew. But you know this, I really thought that I had my life figured out at age 24. Like it is comical and laughable. Like now it is. At first it was depressing and like mental breakdown 101, but now it's funny. So it's evolved, but I don't know. It's just I used to think that too. Like you have to be everywhere. FOMO. We hear that all the time, but I
Mhm.
think 2020 obviously time to nip that in the bud for anybody that was fighting that or resisting that. But I no, I love what you said, and even like about being everywhere. And I could go down like a million rabbit holes because I'm reading some stuff right now that's kind of like counter culture to the hustle and the always like grinding and all this stuff. And there was a quote um by I think just Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King Jr., but he said that he had so much to do that he had to start each day with 3 hours of prayer. Not that he had all this stuff to do, so he's going to try to squeeze in prayer or meditation or the white space or whatever, but somebody that monumental in our world, that's like he put that much room. And so obviously there's something to be said for that.
I think you know Jimmy Starnes.
Yes.
So okay, so Jimmy, who was my coach for a long while, and still a very dear friend, and like gave a toast at my wedding and just the whole thing. But um, I remember calling him a couple of years ago and just like nobody is showing up consistently at work, and no one, like Shane's not showing consistently in our relationship, and the kids are crazy and blah blah blah. And he said in a way that only Jimmy can say, he said, hey, so how do you think people see you showing up? And I was like, Jimmy, I pay you to be my coach, okay? Which means agreeing with me and not calling me out. It was like, actually, you pay me to call you out. And I was like, that's true. I think when he said that, it really set me into a kind of, oh my God, the world that I live in, I'm expecting everyone to be really consistent and to do the things and chop the wood and show up every day on time. whatever, but I'm not showing up consistently for my team, for my family, for my husband, for my friends. And so it really was a jolt of kind of like, ooh, how do I drive out some of those old bad patterns and implement some new ones? And one of the things that I implemented is sitting at this counter right behind me every morning. It's the way I start my morning from a minimum of 30 minutes. And that's where I do prayer, journaling, gratitude, like everything that I have to do to be centered for the day, I do it there before I do anything else. I mean, it's like I make my coffee, I sit down, that's what I do. And so I definitely think, even back to kind of not having white space, but another mistake I see people who are kind of like, I don't have time for a mentor relationship, or, whatever, is like, if you're not making time for you on your calendar, it's actually very true that you don't have time for anything. But everything flows from what you're putting into you. And so if you're not putting good stuff in you, then you can't show up in the world good and whole. So that's definitely, and my gosh, I'm 37 and I just learned that like 2.5 years ago. So
Well, I have something else to say, but do you remember the good old miracle morning days?
oh my Lord, you know, talk about consumption, like consuming content and like trying to like implement it immediately, but having like no real. Yes, I remember it. Also, a recommendation from Shane.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Hey,
And then you tried to
read.
do it.
I would try and make everybody do it. Anything I'm trying, I try and make everybody else try it too. It's what a good mentor does, Lauren.
That's true. No, that's true. That's true. And you're the reason why I journal so much. And like a couple of other things, like talks that I've done or whatever, I do talk to people about journaling. And I want you to go into a little more, because like I feel like you have such a good like routine and pattern. There's no rhyme or reason to mine. I just have to write things down so that I don't, number one, forget them, explode, or just lose my mind. And there's really no rhythm to it. Like I don't even do gratitude. I mean, I try to like consciously think about it, but I want you to talk about like your journaling routine, because you really are the queen of that. Like, how could other people implement that?
I also have a video about it on my Instagram because I own a magazine, so we're always producing content. And they made me, that was the thing. I'll get mine real quick.
Okay.
So I have 2 journals, and I'm really consistent. Like it's kind of like if you're addicted to caffeine, you can't miss coffee in the morning, because if you do, you'll have a headache before lunchtime. If I don't do my morning routine, which includes journaling, um, then my head blows off and I turn into SpongeBob SquarePants. It's real weird. Nobody expects it, but it's the thing that happens. So I have 2 journals, and one is gratitude. And this one I started it in 2018. And it's the same one that I've had since then, because with gratitude, there's no requirement. You can write one word. You could write my bed, my house, my car, my friend Lauren, my husband, or you could, drudge on. And sometimes it's like that I have air conditioning,
Yeah.
that I have electricity, that I drank 10 ounces of water this morning. Whoopee. Like, I mean, if you're having a bad time or going through a hard season, gratitude is difficult, but if you can find it, man, it anchors your day in something really special. And I think if you're starting your day from a place of like, I'm already thankful for what's in front of me, then that tends to set the tone for where my day is going to go. And then I have another one. I believe in like simple journals. I think that we kid ourselves and like, oh my God, if I buy a fancy journal, then all of a sudden
Or
I'm a
like a
professional
guided
journaler.
journal.
Yeah, like today I feel, yesterday I loved. Like, no, this is what I do, and this is what works for me. In the beginning of my journal, I have a place where I write down all the things I was thankful for last year. Like, and I categorize them into like spiritually, how did I grow last year? What kind of wife epic moments did I have? Obviously, I was just blowing it up as a wife last year. What books did I read that I'm proud of? What mom moments did I have that I'm proud of? Friend and family things, work, what accomplishments, health, fitness, travel, adventure, live music. the things that are important to me, I write them down, and then I make space to write down what I'm going to accomplish this year. Um, and then I write down my personal boundaries at the beginning of this book.
Oh,
That's
okay.
it's a new thing.
Yeah.
As it turns
Yeah.
out, one day you wake up and you're 30 and you're like, oh my God, I don't have any boundaries.
Yeah. I'm actually kind of working through boundaries right now, and I did just wake up and I'm 30 years old. So, it really is a thing
And
that's happening.
it happens. It's also not just, that's not a woman thing. Like there are men that don't have boundaries. And here's the thing. I think just by writing them down, it gives you something to go back to. So I write down my boundaries. I write down a prayer over myself and the people that are most important to me. And this is not because I also journal prayers. This is a prayer that I'm believing over the year.
Okay.
So, and then when it comes to just journaling, this is a place where I'm typically journaling about scripture I'm studying or a life moment that happened or whatever. And some days I really journal. Some days I just do gratitude, but every day I do gratitude.
I love
I
that.
don't put a ton of rigidness or like, I don't force myself. I'm working through a Bible study with a group of women right now as their leader or as their mentor, actually, is what it's called.
Yeah.
Rude. Um, but I also just kind of set a theme for my life. Like I know some people choose a word over their year. I don't really believe in that, but whatever. I chose a word that I felt like is what I'm learning. And my word this year was paradox. Um,
Mm.
the definition of paradox is a logically self-contradictory statement or a statement that runs contrary to one's expectation. If a statement that, despite apparently valid reasoning from the true premises, leads to a seemingly self-contradictory or logically unacceptable conclusion, which I feel like was 2020. It was like, what?
Yeah. Honestly, I think like in a couple of weeks ago, 2020 like hit me, like caught me. Like I was like so I don't know what I was actually doing in 2020 for me to just realize what happened like a month ago. So,
I think we all have like trauma bonds. We're all trauma bonded together with 2020 and all the people that lived through it with us.
yes.
Um,
Yeah, for
but
sure.
but in regards to journaling, I'll just wrap it up like this: like your journal is free therapy. Like you can say whatever you want to say in your journal, and your journal's never going to judge you or get mad at you. Your journal doesn't judge you or get mad at you if you leave it alone for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. You can always pick it back up. And it is the most therapeutic thing you can do by just releasing things. Because if you can give yourself permission to release whatever it is you're carrying, um, it frees you up, it frees your capacity up to not walk through that day with whatever anxiety or strife or whatever came with you from yesterday into today. A lot of times it'll just stretch your capacity because you're not carrying so much if you release some of it.
I love that. I love that. Okay, I know that we have to wrap it up, but there's one thing that I really, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes to make sure, that I really want you to hit on, and take whatever angle you want with it. But as they're going to learn about you, you're a storyteller. I mean, that's literally what you do, and that's what you do with your magazine. And I can go all the way back to when your business plan was like in a little plastic thing, and we were, yeah, like, so I've watched you just tell this story not only through your magazine but in the life that you live and like all the phases. And one thing that I love about you and that I try to emulate and carry with me, is that you do work on yourself constantly, but you never have ever let yourself get to a point where you're like, okay, I've arrived. I'm this person in this meeting, or I'm this, like, you constantly work, and you are totally cool with showing up as your authentic self, which I try really hard for that, because I think a lot of people want to have this like facade of professionalism or this or that, and but like people are so hungry, like in the corporate world and nonprofit and entrepreneurship, for like real. And so how do you number one, like, how do you consistently show up like that? What would you tell other people that are like trying to figure out maybe even who they are? Like, if you don't know who you are authentically, then you can't show up that way. And so I really want people to find like the joy of just being them in whatever situation. So like, how did you do that? And do you think it can be like, I think some form of confidence in who you are can be learned. And some people would say no.
Yeah, I, ooh, I mean, I think, wow. I'll tell you, I probably spent most of my life pretending to be somebody I wasn't. And by the time you met me, I was just learning how not to do that, you know? And I think the whole fake it till you make it mentality is something that many of us struggle with. And so if that's something you struggle with, then you're not alone. And there's actually just something about that that's, I think, good and healthy. When you're young, you are trying to, like, okay, I want to get the job that's just a little bit out of my reach, and I promise I'll Google it, take a class, read a book, do whatever, right? Um, and that was definitely my life because I had a son when I was in college, and obviously that set the trajectory of my life to be a bit different than I anticipated it would. But I think when it comes to choosing to show up authentic is giving yourself permission um, to be just a little untethered, right? Like, it's okay if you slip up. It's okay to laugh at yourself in a meeting. It's okay to overstep and to apologize. I mean, just this week in my company, like, I get so excited about new ideas and scaling. And, you know, I'm 37 and I should have it figured out. But the truth is that I had to apologize to 2 employees that I probably gave them anxiety by being overzealous about an idea that wasn't fully formed. And I think that being authentic means leaving room for a mystery, that it's okay for you to, if you don't know the answer, say, I don't know. I actually think that that's strength. That's a sign of strength. Um, and I think another thing that you can take with you is just giving yourself permission to ask really good questions, and don't think that they're, I mean, obviously there are dumb questions. I always hate when people are like, there's no dumb question. Yes, there is. If you can Google it and find the answer, it's a dumb question. Don't ask it.
Agreed.
Okay. But if you're with someone, having a spirit of curiosity about you is far more attractive to me as someone who could be hiring you or mentoring you than you trying to show up and seem like you have it all figured out. Because a spirit of curiosity is the thing that promotes growth more than anything else. Um, and it's probably the spark that I carry with me, and it's the constant reminder that there's so much I don't know. So that's, I guess, did I answer that?
Yes, that was perfect. It's so funny because I kind of had in my mind like the road that I really, really hoped that you would go down, and you did. Like, you nailed all of it of what I want people to know. It's hard to like put everything that I want you to tell people into a short period of time just because you have had such an impact on my life. And yeah, it's been crazy. And I don't know why I feel like I could cry sort of, but I'm just excited that people get to hear from you, that other people are going to get to hear some things like this from you, because if you hadn't taken that time for me, if you hadn't let me ask those crazy questions, if you hadn't put me in situations that I should not have, I was not mature enough to be in, and you let me do them anyway. What should we say? When I'm like hiding and taking pictures with people that you like forbid me from.
Oh
Fangirl.
yeah, that's true.
But anyway,
There were some fangirl moments, and I will say this: I'm super proud of you because I think that you're a great person to, your presence, like my presence. I feel like, you know, these listeners know you more than they know me, right? And so the idea is, I hope that the way that I show up in life lends itself to giving permission for people to not have it all figured out. Because if I show up and I don't have it all figured out, then you know it's okay to not have it all figured out. And I think you do that really well. And I think you've gotten better at it as time has gone on. And I think that when it comes to choosing a mentor, that is immediately you're being brave because you're admitting that there's more to learn and that you want to learn from someone who's going to challenge you and hold you accountable. And those are definitely the two factors of like, if I am asking someone to mentor me, or if I'm mentoring them, I'm asking them, what do you expect from me? Like, what are you hoping to learn? Because I just want to know, am I qualified? And then
You want from
also,
me.
yeah, are you giving me permission to hold you accountable? So if you're telling me you're going to do something, I'm going to ask you if you've done it. And I'm going to challenge you because I want you to grow and I want you to get better. And you were always great. Even when you hated what I had to say, you still took it in stride and you kept showing up. You never would go away.
Yeah, I know. I did tip off the map, and they know about that because I did talk about that in my last episode. I have been super open
Until
about
you
that.
did. That's true. I should have
Yeah,
said that. Like
no,
she would never go away until she disappeared for a minute. And I
until
was
I
like,
disappeared.
what?
I
And
did
I called
disappear.
her and lost my mind on her. Did she tell you all that too?
I didn't tell him that, but I didn't have time. But no, I did talk about that because, like I said, I know I could talk to you forever, but my last episode was really me wrapping up my story because I do get this cool opportunity to talk to people about all the things that I've done, and they didn't walk alongside of me through those things, and so sometimes they sound a lot more glamorous and like put together than they were, because there was actually 0% glamorous about anything that I did for all those years. But I mean, I learned, so I wouldn't trade. Absolutely would not trade any of it. But yeah, I mean, I talked about that. I literally had like a nervous breakdown and I did disappear. But you know what? A lot of people didn't let me come back, and you did. And so that says a lot. And obviously, I'm very grateful for that. And it just goes back. I mean, it just feeds right back into everything that you've said. Is you are authentic, you are real, you do what you say, and even when people tip off literally the map, you still let them come back. And I'm grateful
Yeah.
for that. And I'm still learning from you, even if from a distance now. But I'm excited. I can't wait to share this with everybody. And I love you.
I love you. All right.
They're all
Well,
gonna
good
be
luck,
like,
everyone. They're like, oh, wow. She said, I love you, but
I
it's not
know.
serious.
I'm probably gonna
Did
hit
she? She said she was going to cry and she just told her she loved her. What's happening?
yeah, I'm probably gonna hit stop recording now because I feel like we've got good. But hey, you know what? I'm gonna bring you back because I have more ideas for you of stuff that I need you to talk about eventually. So I mean, they're gonna hear you again.
Okay, fine. I like it.
A little bit of a bumpy intro and outro, but I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation with Laura. We'll definitely have her back. There's a lot more stuff that I would love to talk to her about and share with you all, and we've got a ton more stories for sure. But if you want to connect with Laura or follow her journey, which I think that you all should, then you can find her personally on Instagram at Laura_L_quick. And you can also follow GoodGrit Magazine at GoodGritMag and subscribe to their magazine. Such a beautiful, not only is it beautiful, but the stories are so cool. And Laura's amazing. So anyways, okay, we made it through the first guest. We're only going to go up from here, and I'm excited for episode 5. The guest, or what we're going to talk about, is even a surprise to me right now. So just stay tuned and subscribe, and we'll see you when we see you.